Hello and welcome to the Virtual Handshake. This training is designed to help you understand how to implement proven selling strategies. I'm talking about selling strategies that work in the real world, offline when real people speak to one another, and how to translate that into the online world and simulate those exact experiences, but do it through a selling medium like a website or a web page or even a social media page. So we're going to be focusing on online, but we're going to be talking about proven strategies that have worked well throughout history, really. So let's do this first of all by switching our hat. Now I'm going to assume I'm talking to you now as a business owner or a salesperson or entrepreneur or whatever title that you give to yourself or whatever title you have. Let's shift for a moment and think about the buyer. And we are all buyers. We all consume things on a regular basis, so we know what it's like to be on the receiving end of a good salesperson and not so good salespeople. I want to ask you a question. Have you ever had a pleasant buying experience? Now that question might seem a little off because it's very easy for all of us to complain about poor buying experiences when we're dealing with a bad company or a bad sales rep or bad customer service. But that doesn't always happen. There are some very good examples of companies that are doing it right. So I want you to just think for a minute. Maybe it was recently or maybe it was a little while ago that you bought something or you went through a buying cycle with a company or a provider and the experience was really good. It was really positive. Think for a moment on that and try to recall at least one of the more recent times that's happened to you. I'm sure you've had a few of these. I hope you have. And let's think about it at a higher level. The buying process is pretty simple when it all comes down to it. Really, when you're a buyer, you have some kind of need that needs to be filled. You have a desire for something or you have a problem that needs to be solved, and you actively seek out a provider who can help you fill that need or solve that problem. And really, there's all kinds of intricate details that go into that conversation, that go into you finding the right provider, the right vendor, the right solution. But at the end of the day, the highest level, the most simplistic way of explaining all of this is one of your needs is being filled when you buy something. So it could be something very, very basic, like going to the grocery store and buying something you want to eat, or it could be something a lot more complex, like fulfilling a huge problem or solving a huge problem in your business that's costing you money or time or something even worse than that. So the buying experience in general, that it's basically broken down as simplistic as possible here for the topic of our discussion as filling a need. Now, let me actually take this to an example level for you. I want to talk about, for me personally, a time where I was in the buying role, and as a business owner, I was looking for a new company server, a server that we could use, a dedicated server to host company websites, different products that we wanted to sell online. And when you purchase a server, as you may know, if you're a business owner who has a website or has any kind of online aspects to your business, you know that buying a server is not a very cheap thing to do. It can be very, very expensive depending on your needs and your requirements. And there are tons and tons of choices out there. There's all kinds of companies that are available right now that want to sell you a server. And so that process itself can be complex. Well, in my case, I was lucky enough to have access to somebody who gave me a referral to a really good hosting company, at least according to them, that had great service, had a good product, i.e. good servers, and backed it up with a long-standing track record and so on. And so for most of us, when we buy something, whether it's a vacation, we're renting a cottage as an example, or maybe we're making a purchase for a new laptop computer or some electronics for our home or whatever. It could be anything. It could be clothing. We often like to get opinions or advice from other people who have gone through and dealt with that vendor. So just like that kind of conversation, same thing happened to me. Talked to a friend of mine. He's also a business owner. He said, these people are really good at what they do. They've hooked me up with some really good servers in the past. I've been very happy. And so that buying experience started off on a pretty good foot for me because I had that referral. So I got in touch, in this case, with the CEO of the hosting company. It wasn't a huge, huge company, and because I had this referral from somebody who was a little bit more important, let's say, to that hosting company, I got access right to their CEO. And it was a great buying experience from the very first conversation because this CEO did not get on the phone and immediately just start selling or telling me of all these things they could sell me. We could sell you this, and you might want to buy this and that. She didn't do that at all. She sat down and asked me, what is it that I need. And she asked me all kinds of questions about the type of business we're doing and the type of traffic numbers we're expecting and the growth numbers that we foresee in the immediate future and the far future, what kind of numbers we see and all that. So she really took time to understand where we were coming from, what we need, what our budget was, what kind of expectations we had from a hosting company. And immediately, as the buyer, I felt better because there was no solution, there was nothing pitched to me. It was literally just a conversation where I was answering a lot of questions. Based on that conversation, she said, we definitely can help you out, because she took time to listen to what I needed, and she was confident, because she knew her business very well, that she could indeed provide me with a server that could fulfill our needs. And so she then passed me over to a sales rep, trained sales rep on her company, that could sit down and put together a package that met my needs. So this was a very encouraging experience for me. I felt like I was understood. I felt like I was being listened to. Then I was put in touch with a salesperson who was there to give me the best possible deal. And then further to that, I went ahead and eventually invested with this company and got a server with them. And things went really well. The customer experience was great. My server was set up in a very short period of time. I had somebody follow up to make sure I was happy. All of these things that you would expect a good company to do, they did. After a couple of months, we started using their service. Inevitably, problems happen, things come up, and we needed to call on their support team on a fairly frequent basis. They gave excellent support. They solved our problems in a timely fashion. In one particular example, they had made a mistake without getting into the details, they installed something on our server and it wasn't configured the right way, and some of our websites had outages, and we were down for, I think it was up to a day. Well, instead of just saying, sorry about your luck, hopefully we don't do it again, because I was in touch with the CEO, she went out of her way to ensure that our fees were waived for that month, to make sure that we were happy, and that she knew that, she wanted to know that we were happy with our experience with them. And for me, from a loyalty perspective, I just think about the psychology of that. I was a little bit frustrated. They solved the problem quickly, and then they went above and beyond to say, you know what, you don't have to pay for this month because it was our mistake, and we value that much as a customer. So these are, I'm just relating to a very good buying experience for me. And again, I'm sure you've had some of your own. But this is very basic business type of skill development. If you want to run a successful company, these are the things you need to do. Make sure your customers are happy. Make sure there's follow through, not just before the sale, but after the sale. Make sure there's a long-term commitment to their success, their happiness, and that you cultivate a type of relationship so they come back to you again and again, and hopefully they refer customers to you. And just like the person who referred them to me, now I am becoming a referrer, and I tell people about this company all of the time because I've had such a great experience with them. Sure, they make mistakes, and sure, there's some times where there's a little bit of frustration, but at the end of the day, they stand by their products and they do an excellent job, a better job than I'm sure a lot of the other companies out there. And so I'm happy being a customer, and I'm happy referring business to them. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to the buying experience. A lot of us, when it comes to selling online in the virtual world, we forget about this. We forget about these basic skills that we have to incorporate into selling, whether we're doing it in person or whether we're selling on the internet. So, having said all of that, let's talk about the 6 elements of virtual selling. And I'm talking about the elements that allow any business owner to recreate what I just talked about here, a real world selling experience, but to do it online. And there are 6 main things, and we're going to be going through each of these in each individual module. So after this introduction, you're going to be opening up the next module, which will be its own video, and we're going to be talking about each one of these 1 through 6. The first one is positioning. Getting into the market and creating offers that meet the needs of your customers, and getting into a market that actually spends money. You have to make sure that you position yourselves on both ends of this equation. Secondly, we're going to be talking about the framework of virtual selling, having an overall structure to sell within, and to do it in a way that's going to give you the most benefit as a seller, but also create a really good buying experience for your customer. Third, connection. The importance of creating a personal relationship with people. If you own a store, or if you're dealing with people face to face, obviously you go out of your way to try to connect with that person, not just about the item they're about to buy from you, but at any level you possibly can. Any common connections you can make as a salesperson will help you in that sales cycle, both short term and long term. We cannot forget to also do this in the online world. Personal relationships are everything when it comes to selling. Number 4, we're We're going to talk about a methodology or a philosophy, whatever you want to call it, called slow money thinking. And we're going to get into the details of this. So I'm going to leave you hanging a little bit, but it deals with the lifetime value of a customer. And it's thinking long term and not so much short term, which can be a little bit of a backwards way of thinking for some people, especially if you're new to business and you're trying to generate revenue really, really quickly. Number 5, how to earn trust. And I'm talking about earning trust in the long run, so establishing long-term credibility. It's one thing to be credible today in the here and now, just like in my example with that CEO of the hosting company. She did a great job selling me and convincing me that they were the right company because she listened to me and she understood my needs, but she also went above and beyond in the long term to make sure I continued to be happy month after month, and now it's been a number of years and I'm still happy. That's long-term credibility, and that doesn't happen by accident. And then finally, number 6 is innovation. When it comes to virtual selling or any kind of selling, you need to be able to grow and adapt and to lead your clients. How are you changing? How are you growing your skill set, your offers, and what it is you do for your clients so that you don't become stagnant and you're always delivering new value to them? It's one thing to deliver value once and have your client walk away, but how about coming back over and over and over again, relentlessly helping them solve new problems and understand our changing world, which is changing faster than it ever has before. So those are the 6 main elements of this course. The following 6 videos will cover one by one these 6 points that I've just covered at a high level. So without further ado, please skip ahead to the next video. We'll be discussing the first topic of positioning. Welcome back to the virtual handshake training, where we're talking about implementing real-world proven selling strategies and how to turn those into success in the online world. And in module 1 right now, we're going to be talking about positioning. Now, positioning is a loaded word and it can mean a lot of things to a lot of people, but in the context of this course and our discussion here, this is really about making sure that your product or your service or whatever it is you are putting together in your offer, that it meets the needs of a market that already spends money. Okay, this is a huge distinction, and a lot of new entrepreneurs make this mistake where just because you think it's a good idea or that you're passionate about the topic or you would buy X, Y, and Z does not mean that there's any money to be made here. So you always want to do a reality check. Think about your business idea and set that aside, and then take another look at the market in general, and then ask yourself the reality-based question of, do people actually spend money on stuff like this? And that can sometimes be a hard pill to swallow because you have been really excited about this, maybe you've been building plans, and then you suddenly start to realize that there really is no opportunity here. But a lot of the time, it's just a matter of re-looking at what your interest was and mapping it back in a different way to some market that spends money. I'm going to explain exactly what I mean using an example for you in just a second. But to me, this is the key here. The positioning idea is the reality check of what you want to do. Are there people spending money on this in some way, shape, or form? Now, before I go there, I want to talk about a common challenge here, because right now this particular module is geared towards you as the new entrepreneur. If you're just getting started, if you're in that building phase, I'm speaking to you. So if that's not you, if you're an experienced entrepreneur, I believe there's still value here, and you should still listen, but you're likely beyond this phase. This should be a revalidation of what you've already implemented. Here is a common challenge that I see. Somebody has a job, they want to quit, they want to become an entrepreneur, and they have a whole set of skills, right? In that whatever it is they were doing before, it could be a decade they were at a corporate gig doing something. They obviously got pretty damn good at what it was they were doing because they got paid a lot of money to do that. So there's a skill set there. There's a huge list of skills that they have. But then they become an entrepreneur and they kind of set those skills aside because, well, let's face it, they want to do something new. It's exciting, it's fresh to build your own business and to get into something new. And I get that, and you should. A new business should be an opportunity for you to expand your horizons and get good at new things. However, it does not mean that you should ignore all of these bankable skills that almost are like predictable revenue generators for you. And that is the mistake I see a lot of people making, is they focus just on the newness of their business, these new ideas and new things they want to do, and they scrap all of these existing skills because they link it in their brain to pain because it's part of the old job, and I hated doing that, and I used to be in sales, and I'm sick and tired of being a salesperson for a big company. I want to do this thing over here. And so it's, How beneficial do you think it would be? This is a legit question for you to think about. How beneficial is it for you to just throw away all those skills that you've been developing for the past decade, in my example, just so that you can focus on this new thing? Obviously, you're setting yourself up for disaster if you don't at least integrate some of your previous skills. Just to give you a quick example, I've seen people. They used to be in a corporate role as a manager, a project manager or a software programmer or salesperson, whatever, and then they want to get into an online business and start a blog where they're reviewing software and they're making affiliate commissions by recommending different software programs. But if you've never installed software, you've never been a software analyzer before, not only do you have a huge steep learning curve of just building that website and getting traffic to it, but now you have to get good at actually being a software expert. There's a massive gap in skill set here. A better option would be to start a blog that focuses on some things to do with what you used to sell. So maybe you used to sell something in the pharmaceutical industry. Well, now maybe you get into blogging dealing with the pharmaceutical industry in itself. A smaller gap there, leveraging existing skills, but still expanding your horizons. I think you see where I'm going here. So the ideal situation is where you can almost do like this Venn diagram here, where you find a sweet spot between existing skills that you have and then interests that you want to develop, because that's why you're getting into business, right? You want to expand on things that you're interested in and that you're passionate in. And then finding a market that already spends money and then combining those skills and those interests into offers where a market is spending money. That is your sweet spot. So this is still kind of theoretical. I want to give you an example that will really I hopefully tie this together for you. One of my coaching clients is has a background in the corporate world, management experience, and lots of, as you can imagine, if you're in the corporate world for many years, you develop tons of skills, from negotiations to management to selling to you name it. And he's got a massive skill set there and was very successful in his corporate life. But he also has a lot of different interests that don't really match that corporate background. And his particular interests were in the healing music arena. Relaxation music and music that you can, put on some headphones and get a lot of positive benefit for healing your life. And in fact, he used this in his own life to recover from certain problems that he had to deal with. So and he had in his own skill set, he also had some background and experience with actually creating that music and finding other producers of that music and finding some of their actual works that were available for redistribution. And so he had skills in the corporate world when it came to selling and managing. He had interest in this healing music. But then we took a look at the market. And if you look, how many people are out there right now saying, I need to go and buy some healing music right now? There are some people, but the market is pretty limited. If you were going to go and set up shop saying, I create healing music and you can buy it all from me exclusively, you're going to be facing a pretty steep hill to climb if you want to make a lot of money, if you want to build a very successful business. So we had to kind of re-examine this. We had to take a look at, well, what is it you really want to do here? And in the case of my client, he was really passionate about healing music, and he wanted to figure out a way to share his passion for healing music and the benefits that it can provide you by sharing his story of how it helped him heal his life and get more richness and more value and more calmness and happiness in his life. And he wanted to share that with other people in a way that he could make money doing it. And so we started taking a look at a much bigger market. So where do people actually spend money? And what's a closely related market? So in this particular example, there's a bigger market, especially in the online world, of general self-help or self-improvement. There's all kinds of people, literally millions of people, who go to the internet searching for self-improvement based programs. Anything from developing confidence to healing ailments to de-stressing to speaking better in front of an audience, you name it. Personal improvement is a huge market, and I'm sure you already know that. So think about the indirect approach here. Should he go into business selling healing music, or is it a better idea to go into business in the self-improvement arena and find people who he can connect with by selling the benefits of healing music? Let's say you're out there as a self-improvement enthusiast looking for a way to de-stress, and you're looking for a stress release program, and maybe you've been buying some hypnosis products to date, and suddenly you see somebody who has a different approach to de-stressing. And you get a free report where the person's saying, hey, I've got this really cool way that helps people remove stress and kind of calm down a little bit and brings more health into their lives. And it's using a series of healing music techniques that you really probably haven't seen before. Sign up now, and I'd love to share my experiences with you. Here is an opportunity for somebody to combine a set of skills and a set of interests and package it and provide it in a way that a market that already spends money will be interested in. And that's the sweet spot that I want to kind of help you uncover, help you define here. So it starts with really making an understanding or coming to an understanding of what your skills, what your interests, and what potential markets you could get into. So let me give you an example of just a couple of my own. So some of my skills, I'm an entrepreneur now, but my background is in the corporate world. So in the corporate world, I used to do a lot of software consulting, and in the corporate world and in my entrepreneurship career, which I do right now, I did a lot of training, and I still do a lot of training. And going back to my corporate world, I also did a lot of telephone-based sales. I'd get on the phone with customers, and I'd convince them to buy stuff. And those were just three of the skills that I developed in those years. And actually, there's a fourth one here. I have now developed in the last few years skills as an entrepreneur. What am I interested in? Well, I'm obviously interested in entrepreneurship because I do that now. I have other interests in sports. I love all different kinds of sports and athletics and working out. Film production is a big one. I enjoy watching documentaries, and I like studying what people do to create a good documentary film, and just video production in general is of interest to me. And I also really enjoy training. What I'm doing right now is something that I'm not only skilled at, but I'm interested in doing it. It's something I'm always looking to do more of because I have fun doing it. And then there's some markets that I'm directly related to. So when I say market, I want you to think of people that you're connected to in different markets. So obviously I have a background in corporate software, in corporate world, so I know that market. I also have I have connections, and there's a market in formal education. So I have connections to people at universities and colleges and even high schools. And I've been paid by all three levels of those types of businesses to come in as a speaker. So that definitely is a market as well. And I also know people in the business coaching or just general coaching marketing arena. So here is what this whole concept, this whole chapter is all about. Let's take a look at that sweet spot that I was talking about in the Venn diagram on the previous slide. How do I find that sweet spot where there's a merge of all three of these things? Well, my skill set and my interests need to cross-combine. I'm no longer interested in software consulting. That's where I quit the corporate world. I didn't really want to do that anymore. I was sick of it. And I didn't really enjoy telesales. I didn't like getting on the phone and selling that corporate software. But I do like training and entrepreneurship, so I'm going to leave those active and alive. Now, switching over to my interests. The interests, well, I love film production, I love sports, but I don't really have any particularly marketable skills in those things. I could develop them. I certainly could spend the next few years, going and getting education or getting an apprenticeship or going to work for companies that make money using those interests. But that's not something I can immediately monetize right now. So I'm going to cross those out, and what's left is entrepreneurship and training. Those are the two common pieces between my skills and my interests. And now let's look at the market. Well, from a corporate software perspective, again, I'm done with that. I don't want to go to the corporate world anymore. But what's left is formal education and business coaching, and I have actually created solutions. I've created products in my own business where I've cross-combined my entrepreneurship and my training skills and interests and created marketable opportunities both in the formal education industry and in the business coaching industry. I've been paid by colleges to go in and teach courses on entrepreneurship and training, and I loved doing it. It was a great way for me to monetize my skills and my interests. Same with business coaching. So what we're going to get you to do right now is the exact same thing. You're going to go and complete exercise 1. Well, you will list. Now, this is a simple example, but I want you to list all of your skills, as many as you can possibly imagine. Every marketable skill that you've ever achieved in your lifetime. Go back through all the different jobs that you've worked at. You've developed skills doing those things. Think about them, write them down, and put them in a point form list. Do the same for your interests, and then do the same for different markets that you are aware of, and more importantly, that you are connected to. If you know somebody in a market, that's the ideal one to look at, because then you're connected to somebody who can likely introduce you to somebody that can maybe give you a selling opportunity. That's what we're doing here, is we're going to try to find that sweet spot for you where we cross combine your skills and your interests, and we start looking at markets, just like my coaching client did by cross combining his interest in healing music and the self-help industry. So go ahead and complete exercise number 1 right now. Welcome back to the virtual handshake training. Now, module 3 is potentially the most important topic in this whole training here. When we talk about taking proven selling strategies, traditional stuff that works offline, and doing it in the online world, building a connection with your audience, with your prospective buyers, and with your existing customers. Building that connection and enhancing that relationship over time can be very difficult, but if you do it right, it can be very powerful as well. So I want to shine some light on the importance of building connection, and specifically some tips on how to actually do this well. So let me first define what I mean by connection. It's creating a personal relationship with your customers by being real and genuine. Now, that can be a bit of a stretch for some people. A lot of people, when they enter selling online mode, when they get into this online selling mode, they feel like they want to be anonymous. They feel like they don't necessarily have to be as real of a person, or they can kind of hide behind a pseudonym or a different pen name or whatever. And that can be done. But what I want to focus on is for people, hopefully like you and me, that aren't really so concerned about doing that, and that are not afraid to put their name on what they're doing, to get out there and be a real person. Because think about it. For long-term selling relationships, you likely get to know the person who is selling something to you. I think of my financial advisor. I got to know her for a good 6 months before I ever even considered giving her my business. Somebody who happened to meet at a business function, and she gave us my wife and I, all kinds of great advice, and was just very friendly, and sent us some emails, and even gave us some connections to other people that had nothing to do with her trying to sell to us. So she established well before we ever gave her our business that she was somebody that was real and genuine, and she cared about us. And then, when we reached that level with her, is when we decided to go with her as our financial advisor. And years later, we're still happy with that decision. But we made the decision because of that real connection that we made with her. Now, we happen to make that connection offline in the real world by having coffee meetings and sitting down face to face. But that can still happen online. And I just wanted to paint that picture for you to remind you that this is how real, effective long-term selling takes place. So you have to be willing to step out there and to be a real and genuine person, share stuff about yourself, and learn stuff about your customers and your prospective customers so you can make real connections, so they feel like they know you. And so how do you do that? How do you make a connection when you're not really physically getting together? You're not sitting down for coffee. And maybe you will eventually, but if you're selling online, chances are there's going to be people all over the world buying your stuff, and there's probably going to be cases where people will become your customers and you never actually meet them in the real world. So that's kind of mind-bending for some people if you're used to selling in the traditional offline world. So first and foremost, I've already said this once, but being willing to use your real name and identity. Now, okay, I've granted there are going to be cases where that doesn't make sense for you, or it's not part of what you want to do. Fine. But right now I'm speaking to what I believe is the majority of people who are willing to use their real name and their real identity and say, look, my name's George Smith, and here are the things that I do, and this is what I believe in, and here's why I believe you should buy my products, and so on. So put your real name on it. Give your real identity. Share the reasons why you're in business, and why you've created this product or this service, and why you believe in it so much. The more you do that, the more you share your story and your identity, and be real and genuine, and even tell stories about your family or what you do outside of work, your interests outside of your line of business, the deeper the connection you create with people. Again, that can be pushing your limits, your comfort zone a little bit, but the people that sell the most effectively online tend to do this stuff really, really well. And again, I've already kind of covered this, but telling personal stories, sharing relatable information, you would not believe the number of times for me as a seller and also as a buyer where I've connected with people outside of the primary topic of business. Again, that back to my financial advisor story. That lady that my wife and I connected with, who ultimately became our financial advisor, we connected on many, many other levels. She referred us to a massage therapist who we now use. She gave us access to a trade show that my wife wanted to get into. I mean, these were things that had nothing to do with the whole idea of financial advising and how we should manage our money, but there were things that we could relate to her on other levels. And so that made us create, or that helped her create a deeper connection with us. Not only that, she had grandkids and we have children, and so we could relate in the fact that we're all in this mode of dealing with kids all the time, so we could share some funny stories there. That created a even deeper connection. So you can see how this all ties together. Now, how do you create an even deeper connection? How do you take this a step further? Taking time to meet your clients. Now, again, if it's only going to be done in the online world, phone, email, Skype, Facebook, Google Plus, Hangouts, there are so many pieces of technology available today that allow you to take a connection and enhance it, to make it deeper. But for some reason, a lot of people think that, well, because I'm selling online, I don't actually need to get to know my customers. It's going to be a website that does the selling for me, and another website or another web page that delivers what I've promised, and then maybe a customer support page that does all of the back and forth communication if they have any questions. And yes, that's probably going to be the case. There will be these pages that are interfaces to your customers. But that does not mean that you, as a business owner, as the seller of this information or of this product or the service or whatever, should not be reaching out and actually making a connection with that customer. You should be, and a lot of people don't realize this. So why not, on that thank you page, take a moment to capture the information of your customer at a deeper level. Get their phone number, get their Skype ID, get their mailing address, or get their Facebook information. Reach out and make a personal connection. Give them a phone call and thank them for their business. Send them a thank you card in the mail. You can think of all these different things that you would probably do if you were selling cars or selling insurance or doing any kind of traditional sales role offline. Why would you not do that now that you're selling something that's in the online world? The cool thing about this is a lot of online sellers aren't really doing this stuff. Some people are, but the majority of them aren't. So when you take some time to go above and beyond and meet your customers, get to know them, reach out, become a real person to them, you're going to make a connection that's way deeper than 99% of your competition, and that will allow you to create many, many more of those sales funnels, those conversations that I mentioned in the previous lesson, that will allow you to sell more and to create more opportunity. Not only for yourself, but even in affiliate relationships. If you want to make some money by referring your customers to some of your partners, well, your customers are going to be much more likely to take your advice and buy those recommended products because of these deep connections that you're creating with them. Now, this is a specific action item that I want to talk about for a couple of moments here. It's the importance of using video and photo. Now, I want to highlight this here because there are a lot of online sellers that are consciously aware that video and putting your photos and putting your name out there is a good idea. But there are drastically few number of people that follow through on that awareness that it's a good thing to do. So I want to push you in this training to become the person in that small minority that actually steps out, gets on camera, and starts creating videos that allow you to create these deep connections. Because if you get on video and do everything that I say on this slide, use your real name and identity. Tell personal stories. Share from your heart, even if you're not a great speaker, but just share honestly why you believe in this product that you've created, why you believe in this service that you've created, and give them the honest truth of who you are, why you created this. What are the chances that you're going to connect with that person at a deeper level than if you just put it in text or if you just have a picture explaining why they should buy this thing? You know what the answer is. So let's go back to that sales funnel example, and I've got a picture here. And let me bring it all up right on the slide here of a little video. This is a simulation, but imagine your typical sales funnel scenario. Let's go back to my really simple example where you have a free offer. It's something like, let's go back to my customer that I talked about in the very opening module of this course. He wanted to create a healing music type of offer, and his freebie was going to be a report on the benefits of how healing music can help you de-stress and be used as a tool for self-improvement. Well, that's a great free offer. And the upsell could be, some healing music that they could actually buy. And then the thank you page could be some continuity. Stay tuned for more tips on how healing music can help you do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and maybe some referrals to some of his partners or whatever. We can talk about the longer sales process later. But how much more effective would that conversation be? Would that sales funnel be if he was on video in all of these aspects, in the blogs and the podcasts and everything leading up to the sales funnel, as well as the funnel itself, the freebie offer, a video of him on camera saying, hey, I've got this great freebie for you that I've created, and here's why I created it. Here's what it's going to do for you. Here's why I believe in it so much. Here's what it did for me. And guess what? All you have to do is send your name and your email, because I'd love to keep in touch with you, and I've got some other offers that I think you'd like. But first of all, just check out, this great freebie I've put together for you. I think you'll love it. And then they get to the upsell. Oh, thanks so much for taking action on my freebie. You might be interested to know that I've also got this healing music download. It's normally, $20. You can have it today for $10. Try it out. No risk, 30-day money back guarantee, whatever. That's also a video. He's on camera explaining it from his heart, why he believes in it, why he thinks you might want to buy this thing. It doesn't have to be a pushy sales pitch. It can just be an honest pitch, an honest approach. And then they get to the thank you page, another video where you're branding, you're explaining, or you're thanking them for their business, and you're telling them where they can go for support, for help. If you have any problems, do this. If you'd like to know more, here's some information. Fill in the form below with your phone number, and I'll give you a call at a convenient time for you, and we can discuss anything else that I can help you with. You see where I'm going with this. The more places you put video and you brand yourself as an expert and as somebody who genuinely cares about your topic, the deeper the connection you are going to make. Now, instead of selling as an anonymous person online, you're a real person. The person could be on the other side of the globe, but now that person feels like they know you. For me personally, I do this in my selling all the time, and I cannot tell you the number of times I've got onto calls with people for the first time that we've ever met in a real world situation when we're talking. They say they feel like they already know me because they've seen my videos. They've seen me selling to them. They see me thanking them for their purchase, doing it in a video format. Same thing for me as a buyer, and I'm sure the same thing exists for you as a buyer. When the person selling you something has taken the time to get on camera, explain what they do, thank you for your business, and so on, you feel that connection. You remember them more. They stand out from the crowd. You remember them. Let's say you've bought 20 things in the last month. You probably remember that person who got on video ahead of the other 19 people if the other 19 didn't do video. So that is the power of all of this. So exercise number 3, you should go ahead and complete that now, is to make a checklist. Make a list of all forms of connection that you can make with your audience, and I want you to specifically think about stepping out of your comfort zone if that is something that you're not comfortable doing. Get outside of that comfort zone and create videos. Where can you create videos? Can you start by just putting some stuff up on YouTube? In your sales funnels, can you do videos at each and every step of the process in the sales funnel to make that conversation more realistic? It's more like an offline selling situation when you're on video explaining yourself, using the technology that's available today. There's no excuse to not create video. You can go to the store right now and grab an HD webcam for like $50 and create good quality videos that you publish on YouTube, and YouTube hosts it for free. Budget is not a concern here. It's your comfort zone that's a concern. So be one of the few that steps out and does it differently, and watch how much deeper of a connection you make with your audience. Welcome back to the Virtual Handshake training. Now, Module 4 is a bit of a different one. You may be scratching your head at the title here of the word slow money, but we're talking about proven selling strategies from the real world and moving it online. And so what I mean by slow money is long-term success in an online business requires patience and avoiding seductive shortcuts. Now, this is a power pack statement. So what I want to do is start with an actual example that illustrates this better than I could by sitting here trying to describe it to you all day long. Let's look at 2 different squeeze pages. If you're not familiar with a squeeze page, it's basically a single web page where a seller or a business owner is trying to get a prospective buyer to join their mailing list so that later on they can sell them something. Now, a traditional approach in the online marketing world is on the left side here, where it can be very vague and almost a secretive type of almost blind copy, saying, "I've got this great secret that's going to solve a problem for you." You don't know who's offering it to you. You don't really know much of anything. You really want, your curiosity is so aroused that you put your name and email in because you need the answer, and you hit that submit button and you go and get the answer, and then you unsubscribe from that person's list as fast as possible because you don't want to be sold to. And on the right side, there's somebody that takes a different approach where they're giving away a secret, but they actually take time to get on video, and they're brave enough to say who they are and what their name is and why they're doing this and why they think you might want this information. And they take time to connect with you. Now, you're pretty interested in what they have to say, so you sign up with your name and email and you hit submit, but now you actually want to see what else they have to say, because there they are on video again on the thank you page, telling you more about what you just signed up for and what to stay tuned for. Now, here is where a little bit of the slow money discussion comes in. On the left side, you will get traditionally a much higher conversion rate, meaning for the number of people that visit your page, you will get more people signing up with their name and email and hitting submit on the left side because of the curiosity factor than you will on the right side, because it takes a little bit longer for them to watch the video, and maybe they're just not patient enough, or you've taken a little bit more of a conservative approach, let's say, that the conversions may be half of the size they were on the left side. But this is sort of the slow money methodology in play. When you take the approach on the left-hand side, you're really just trying your very best to get that person to do something so that you can sell to them, and they really do feel like a number. So yes, your conversions may be higher, but what is the quality? What is the long-term value of that conversion? In my experience, when you measure this out over the course of 2 or 3 or even 5 years, while you're getting much lower conversions on the right side, the value and the quality of those conversions end up making you a lot more money and being worth a lot more value to your business in the long run when you take this approach on the right side. And that comes back to this whole virtual handshake methodology, which is selling as you would in the offline world and simulating that online. You're not going to walk up to somebody offline and hand them mysteriously hand them this flyer that tells them to go to some website to get something and then run away. And especially if you're the person selling that product that the flyer is advertising. That would just creep them right out, and they would probably not want anything to do with you ever again. If it's the offline world, you would probably take some time to introduce yourself and maybe exchange business cards and casually mention what you do, but you would take a very soft sell, a casual approach, knowing that the value of the relationship is much more important than that one transaction, getting them to buy something from you now that they've met you. And I'm sure you've been in a situation where you're desperate, you were cold calling, especially if you're an entrepreneur, where you've had to kind of desperately sell people. It sucks. You feel like you're bothering people, and most people want to hang up the phone or close the door on your face, and I'm sure you do that to other people when they try to sell you that way as well. So this is really what I'm talking about when I say slow money. It's doing things that don't necessarily give you the immediate return and don't necessarily create the immediate cash flow, but over the long run, what's going to pay you more money? What's going to build a more sustainable business? Those are the types of questions, that's the type of thinking that I want to encourage for you here. So let's talk about what some slow money habits really are all about. And when I say slow money, I'm talking about giving yourself a chance to make real progress, make real money long term in your business. So this is long term thinking, 5+ years. Every decision you make, every sales funnel that you create, every video you create, every product and service and offer that you put out on the market, and even those surrounding things, the blog posts that you put up and the YouTube videos and the podcasts, are you in a desperation mode, trying to get somebody to take action really quick so you can make money today or solve a real pain point for you today, not with no concern for the future? Or are you really thinking, what's this going to mean? What's this action? How is that going to pan out for me 3, 4, 5 years down the road or even longer? The more you think long term, the better decisions you'll end up making today and in the short term. You think quality versus quantity. Again, back to that squeeze page example, the person on the left side is just is in it for the quantity. How many leads can I get? What's the maximum conversions? My squeeze page converts at 75%. But they don't go on to tell you that nobody does anything after that. They just tell you that their squeeze page converted at 75%. Meanwhile, the guy who's not bragging about his conversions with the video, because he's only getting 15%, is getting a lifetime value out of those customers that's paying him thousands and thousands of dollars, where the person's that's getting the 75% conversions is making next to nothing because there is no long-term value. There's no quality. So it's quality versus quantity thinking. But I also want to make a bit of a caveat here, because when we get into this discussion of quality versus quantity, I see this actually tripping up a lot of entrepreneurs, because my guess is that you're somebody who does want to put a quality product and create a quality business. And so you don't want to rush. You want to do the best job that you can possibly do. And you're not just trying to funnel people through an assembly line so you can make some money today with no concern for the future. I'm assuming you're not that kind of person. So what tends to happen with people that are not that kind of person is they get so focused on quality versus quantity that they don't ever actually take any action. And this is the distinction that I want to make, that it's okay to take action and put something out that isn't the absolute perfection of the world. If you have a product, or you have a sales funnel, or some kind of action that you want to take, and it's ready to go, and you've done your best work, it's okay to take action, even if it isn't the world's highest quality product, as long as you've done your best job and the quality of your service to support it and to make the improvements that may be suggested to you once you put this thing out there for potential criticism. That's where the quality thinking comes in versus the quantity thinking. So don't let this whole obsession with quality stop you from taking action. My point here is that people who focus on quantity and just how many conversions can I get and how many sales can I make today, that short-term thinking of solving the bill, paying the bills today and bringing all the money in without any concern for the future, is where real problems set in. And you often do things like, selling somebody a service that they don't need, selling somebody a product that doesn't match their needs. So yeah, you get the transaction today and you get the money in your bank, but 2 weeks or 2 days or maybe 2 months or whatever it may be down the road, that person that you made this poor transactional decision with is now unhappy. And now you're dealing with a really messy situation, and you're giving refunds, or you're dealing with disputes, or it could be worse. And that is where real problems kick in. So slow money will often prevent these things from happening. And again, long-term value. You're building assets versus making money when you take a slow money approach, right? The person who's trying to make money is just doing whatever they can to pay the bills, and they'll often, again, make poor decisions for long-term thinking. When you're talking about building assets, so here's a really good example. When I like to recommend different products or programs to my clients, I will often go out of my way to create a lot of additional material for my customers that will help them get benefit from the product that I'm recommending. So let's say I send an email to some of my clients saying, hey, there's this new piece of software and I've been using it and I think you're really going to get a lot of benefit. Here's my affiliate link. I'm going to get compensated if you buy this, but I really believe in it. So not only will you get the great benefits of this product I'm recommending, but I'm going to give you some support, and here's some training videos that I've created from my world that once you buy the software will help you get up and running a lot more quickly. Now that is slow money thinking. It's going to take you a lot longer to do a promotion like that, because instead of just contacting your clients and saying, hey, go buy this thing, I need the affiliate commission, you might be spending a day or 2 days or a week, or spending some money to hire somebody to create these training materials. But you're now creating an asset that will create a way higher perceived value for your clients. They're going to trust you even more, that you're not just making a recommendation, but you're going above and beyond to ensure that they will get value from your recommendation. And you're creating this asset, this training component, this video, whatever it is that you've built in my example here, that you can use again in the future. You can use it over and over again. So it's an asset that will bring you money both now and in the long run. So the slow money habit is doing something that may take you a little bit longer to make that immediate money, but again, measure this out in the course of a year, 3 years, 5 years, you're going to be making a lot more money when you take a look at it from that perspective. The short term, the making money today habit says, well, I don't have time to do all that bonus stuff. I need to make money. This product's launching today and I know my customers want it, so here's a link. And I'm not saying that's never a valid thing to do. But what I am saying, and that's just one example, what I am saying is the slow money method is usually a delayed type of gratification. So there's going to be all kinds of examples where if you take that patient approach, you will be rewarded for it. And what this all boils down to really is understanding the lifetime value of a customer versus the transactional value of a customer. The best way to describe this, I've used the example earlier, is when you are willing to walk away, to tell a customer, a prospective buyer who wants to buy something, but you don't have the right fit, and you tell them that I recommend you don't buy this because it's not the right fit for you. You're not making money on that transaction right now. You're delaying the gratification, which will ultimately turn to pain anyways in that situation, but you're delaying that because the lifetime value of the customer that you're dealing with is going to be so much higher. Walking away from a deal or taking the time to put together the right offer or craft the right bonus or spending extra money to support the product or answer your customers' questions above and beyond, working after hours in some cases when you have to. When you look at these slow money habits, it's allowing you to contribute to the lifetime value of the customer, and you don't worry so much about the transactional value. Now, this can be very hard to balance. When you're first starting out in business, you're looking for ways to make money today, and I don't want to ignore that point. You need to make money quickly. So the slow money habits does not mean you can't make money immediately, but I'm talking about the way you run your business and the way you treat your customers in a way that the lifetime value of these people is high, and then they want to come back to you over and over again. So it means making decisions sometimes that will hurt you in the short term from a money perspective, but help you in the long term from a revenue generation and company asset perspective. So let's switch over and look at the exercise. And it's not really an exercise. For Module 4, we have a tip sheet. So just take out the slow money tips. Print those out. Make sure you have them handy, either on a piece of paper, or you even might want to replicate this to your mobile device, save it into an Evernote file, something that you can use to remind yourself on an ongoing basis that the slow money method is a very, very powerful tactic. It's a powerful mindset that you can use to incorporate into the virtual handshake type of world. Welcome back to the Virtual Handshake Module 5, which is called Earning Trust. Now, this is a short chapter, but it's very important, so don't let the shortness distract you from the value and the power here. Now, when I say earning trust, I'm talking really about the long-term credibility that you are building in your business. It's the most crucial component of selling, period, whether you're online, you're offline, you're some kind of combination in between, all of the above, whatever. Without trust and without credibility, you are not going to have much of a business, and you can't expect all that much success. Not just in business, in life in general, of course. Long-term credibility is about trust, and trust itself is earned, but it's earned on an ongoing basis. Trust is established by your actions that you repeatedly do, and your customers will they'll get to know you for the kind of person that you are and for the kind of company that you are building. And so you must set standards, and you must live and operate and behave and create products and services in a way that reinforces that you can be trusted and that you are a credible company. So there's a number of ways you can do this. A lot of it's just common sense, but to start off, doing more than you are paid. Some of the best companies really do a great job of this. Thinking back to the example of my client with the healing music, how cool would it be if you're somebody going through his product or his purchase process, and you pick up some of his reports and you pick up some of the healing music that he recommends, and then you get a call or you get a Skype message or a Facebook private message asking you if you received the order, asking if you had any problems with the download, and maybe some links or suggestions to some other new things that he's just discovered in the last few weeks. But it's done at a personal level, or maybe his assistant's following up and making sure that you can get in touch with his company anytime you need anything. You have a problem, you have a question. These little things, doing more than you're paid, but standing out from the crowd is just one little thing you can do, A, to garner that trust, but B, boost the credibility in the eyes of the buyer. And it doesn't take much more than some effort. Put a little bit of extra effort in, and you're already going to be surpassing what a lot of people are willing to do, and that long-term credibility will pay for itself over and over again. Let's go back to that video recommendation that I talked about in the previous chapter, where instead of just recommending a product, what if you took some time to, instead of sending your customers right to the recommended vendor's website, you sent them to a page on your website first. And on that website, there's a video of you explaining why you're recommending the product and a demonstration of you using the product in your business and some of the benefits that you've received and some of the money that you saved or the time and frustration that you avoided wasting because you are using this product. Now, your customer not only sees that you're willing to share and provide success tips to them, but you're also recommending a product that truly works, and now they're going to want to reward you by giving you the affiliate commission for that. So the long-term credibility gets boosted, and you get to make some money in the process. These are the kind of things that we're talking about when we focus on what can I do to make my customers trust me more? What can I do to establish deeper levels of credibility? And this last point that I want to discuss is ultimately what ties this whole chapter together. It's really the main message here. And that is that you can transform problems, complaints, questions from your customers into opportunity. And a lot of new entrepreneurs get hung up on this because they worry that if customers complain or customers get angry about something, there's a misunderstanding, there's a technical breakdown, problems arise. What am I going to do when that happens, or if that happens? Well, the first message I have for you is that it is going to happen. It is inevitable that somebody is not going to be happy during the process of dealing with you or your company. Mistakes happen, expectations don't get met, miscommunications, you name it. There's a lot of things that could potentially go wrong. So rather than worrying, about how to prevent these things from happening, just accept that it's a reality of doing business. But then also empower yourself to realize that anytime this does happen, it doesn't have to be a negative. It can be up to you as the business owner, somebody who's concerned with long-term credibility, to turn those problems and complaints or questions into opportunity. So, as an example, I've had plenty of situations where customers were frustrated because during a purchase process, let's say something technical went wrong. The sales page wasn't operating correctly, or the buy button didn't work, the payment processor didn't process the item correctly, or our server malfunctioned, and even though the payment went through, it didn't send them a receipt. I could sit here all day listing all the particular technical details that can go wrong and probably will go wrong at some point for you when you're selling online. Some customers are really understanding, other customers get really frustrated. In the case where I've had really frustrated customers, I've had the case where the person had tried to buy 3 or 4 times, it didn't work, and they were just at their wits' end, and they left a message at our help desk saying basically, my payment went through, I didn't get anything, you guys don't know what you're doing, give me my money back, this is a waste of time. They just didn't want anything to do with us anymore. And as the business owner, I could look at that in one of two ways. I could say, oh man, we really messed up, this sucks, let's give him his money back, and kind of hide and hope this problem goes away. Or we could say, you know what, let's try to deal with this in the most long-term credibility building approach that we possibly can. So what I did was I reached out to this customer. I actually picked up the phone. Surprise, surprise. A traditional selling technique that still works. And I picked up the phone and I got a hold of the customer and I explained the situation and I apologized. I set my ego at the door and I just said, look, we're very sorry that you had this happen. No excuse, really. We just had some technical issues. It doesn't happen all that often, but for whatever reason it happened this time. What I'd love to do is make it up to you, and whatever the case was. And I've dealt with this in many different ways depending on the situation. But the point is, I took the effort to pick up the phone, get in touch with the customer, show them that we care, show them that we're here to solve the problem, and that even though you may be frustrated right now, we're going to do what it takes to reset this relation back on the right track. And every single time I've done this, I was able to turn a frustrated customer, an angry person who may have never wanted to do business with us again, into a long-term champion of our company, who would refer business to us, who enjoyed dealing with us, who likes our products and our services, and now trusts us more than they ever have before, because I was willing to do the simple act of picking up the phone. And in some cases, I had to go above and beyond that because their phone number wasn't available. So I had to look up their name and maybe find their website or some kind of site, maybe on LinkedIn, and then through a series of searches, I did some detective work and found a phone number to call them at. And they were just impressed that I was able to get a hold of them live to begin with. They thought it was pretty cool that I went to that so much trouble to reach out and get a hold of them. That's just one little example, but taking a complaint or something that goes wrong and turning it around in your favor. There's been other cases where I had something for sale, and you could argue that the way I described the product didn't match what the product delivered. It wasn't done deliberately, but it was just done because that can happen when you're selling online. Maybe you worded it in your head, it sounded right, and the customer perceived it as something different, and they thought it was misleading them on purpose. I did not think I was doing that, and this customer was very upset that what they bought was not what they believed I told them what the product was all about. Again, the problem could be very bad if I just ignored that customer, or the problem can be resolved and turned around in my favor if I was willing to step up to the plate, which I did. I called the customer, and actually in this case it was a series of emails, and I set the record straight. I apologized for the misunderstanding. I offered a replacement product. I offered a refund because I offered to see sort of my error in judgment and how they could have approached the this whole selling process incorrectly, and I admitted that there was a better way we could have handled it. And so by doing that, this customer was really impressed that I didn't ignore them, that I took the time to acknowledge that we may have messed up, and I was willing to correct the problem. And again, that customer turned it around. They didn't want a refund. They continued to buy from us, and all was well. The point is, we did, or in my case, I did the things that were required to show that customer that we cared and that we were here for the long run to take care of them. Another one is questions. You will get all kinds of questions coming into your help desk or to your support email. Each and every one of these questions is a huge opportunity for you. It's an opportunity for you to create a connection with that individual customer, to answer their question, and it's an opportunity for you to turn the answer of that question into an asset in your business. So if a customer is asking a question that deals directly with using your product, and it's a question that has any remote chance of being asked again in the future, instead of answering it just this once, you can turn it into a recorded answer, something you write down into a PDF document, or you create a tutorial video for, or you hire somebody that does that for you. But you can see what I mean. You can see where I'm going with this is that anytime a question comes in, you're presented with an opportunity to create an asset and to create a long-term relationship. Questions from your customers are often the only source of inspiration you need for new material, for new training material for your customers, new reports, new guides, new tip sheets, things that you can sell, things that you can give away for free. A lot of people say, I don't know what to write next, or I don't know what product to create next, or what to sell to my customers. Go back to your help desk. Look at the questions that are being answered. A lot of the time, your next product is sitting there right in that queue. So that is my message here, is that your long-term credibility can be developed very easily. Trust is something you can establish and you can keep establishing over and over and over again by sticking to these basics that seem so common sense, but a lot of people don't practice this in the online world for whatever reason. Make it your habit to practice this and visit the virtual handshake tip sheet and look at those earning trust tips. Put them somewhere prominent. Put them in your Evernote, or put them on your mobile device, on your desktop, or somewhere where you can revisit them on an ongoing basis. And before you know it, you'll be earning trust and gaining long-term credibility that will pay you both in money and in customer trust and loyalty for years to come. Welcome back to Module 6 of the Virtual Handshake Training. In this one, we're going to be talking about innovation. And this one is the most unique out of all of the modules because it's really what separates selling offline from online. And when you start building your business online and doing more transactional type of stuff in the online world, then innovation becomes easier and you can do a lot more in terms of innovating and doing more creative things with your work, with your customers, and so on. So before I talk about that, let's quickly revisit what we've talked about to this point. Module 1 was about positioning and creating a business and offers inside of that business that sort of merged your personal skills and your interests and a market that has some money and finding that sweet spot where you can actually make some real money, create products and services that meet real needs. Then we talked about a framework, which was really just the whole idea of creating a sales funnel, which is really just an online conversation where you sell stuff. And then in number three, we talked about connection and how powerful those connections can be when you use things like video and you tell your personal stories and you create opportunities to connect with your prospective buyers and your customers using things like video, just as you would do in the offline world, but now just simulating that in a virtual world. Then we talked about slow money thinking and the patience required for the lifetime value of a customer. And then just before this chapter, we talked about earning trust and credibility and building that in the long run. Those five things alone could stand on their own as a training. The reason I wanted to throw this last one in about innovation is because this is where you can really take it to the next level. Now that you already, you've done these first five steps, you have offers, you have a way to sell new stuff to your customers, you have the proper plans in place to develop long-term relationships and so on. Well, now what are you going to do next? The innovation is where you can really get creative and ultimately how you lead your clients. And that's exactly what I'm talking about when I say innovation. Our definition for this course is growing, adapting, and leading your clients in your area of expertise. And I want you to remember that it's your specific area. Your business has been built around a certain type of brand or an industry or an area of expertise. And thinking back to that module one, this is where you merged your skills and your talents and a market that spends money, and you picked what it is that you wanted to become known for, that you wanted to create solutions in a space for. And as you get good at that, so I don't know what it is, let's pick something. Well, let's go back to my first example with my client, the healing music. His area of expertise is going to be self-improvement using the tool of healing music, and that can be adapted in a number of different ways. We talked about de-stressing and healthy mindset and so on. So his area of expertise is very tuned in to people who want self-improvement. Are you going to use specific strategies like healing music? As he becomes an expert on that topic and he gets more and more familiar with what people like and the type of music and how the music works for them and the styles and the times of days to use it and the science behind it. Maybe he researches or interviews experts in different fields in science and medicine, and he starts realizing all the connections that make his solution so powerful. He now is essentially mastering that topic. He's becoming so narrow focused yet so finely in tune with how his solution works and how his methodology really helps his customers, that innovation then becomes natural. Instead of having to think consciously about why his products work or what he's going to sell next, it's just part of who he is. And now innovation becomes natural for him. And when you're selling online, innovation becomes easier because you can do things like test new ideas. So let's go back to his example. He starts interviewing experts, people in the science field, people in the medical industry, maybe famous musicians or just experienced musicians, and he starts realizing all these different connections as to why his products and his music is working so well. He can create a new product and test it almost overnight. You cannot do this in the offline world. It takes time to get your customers, to mail them something in the mail or get them to come into your store or whatever. In an online selling world, sometimes it's as simple as posting a Facebook message or sending an email to an autoresponder list or doing something like a Google Hangout where you can just put it out there and get feedback in real time. Imagine hosting a webinar where you can post a link to something and take a 5-minute break while people consume the content that you've just created. Innovation can be happening as we go when we're online sellers, when we're creating stuff online. This was never available before for traditional offline type of businesses, and I've just listed things here. Like I said, testing out a new idea. It could be a new product or a new service live. Or how about doing a survey? You just want to test the concept of an idea, so you put down 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 questions that you send to your customers who have already bought stuff from you, and you ask them straight up, I'm thinking of building something that does A, B, C, D, E. Would you buy it? What would you want it to do? What were some of the things that I haven't considered that you would want as features added to it, and so on. And you could get these responses in as short a period of time as like an hour or less, depending on how quickly you're connected to your audience. You could do things like virtual training, or like I said before, webinars and hangouts, or even group coaching where you get a chance to create discussion groups. All of these online innovations allow you to be more innovative in your business. And by doing so, you can literally invent new products, new services, new things to create from scratch, out of thin air, basically, that not only allow you to monetize your skill set, your time, and your brand, but help your customers by doing things they never even knew they needed. You're literally inventing solutions. And that's what's so exciting about merging creativity with your mastery. And that's what innovation is all about. The real message here is that consistency is key. It's not enough to set up one sales funnel with one transaction where you offer, you offer the free report and you try to sell them something and then you thank them for their business and you go away. That's just one conversation in an ongoing dialogue. The consistency. What do you say to them next? What do you say to them next week, next month, next year? What kind of new ideas do you put into their head? What kind of ideas do they give you through their questions at your help desk to inspire new thoughts in your mind and in the building of your business? You need to be consistent in engaging with your audience in order to be inspired to get those answers and to even have any of this stuff occur to you. So it's a matter of planning. It's a matter of staying in touch with your audience through email messages, through social networking, through running webinars, through offering training and going to training, getting trained yourself. And all these things together, by staying consistent with that brand and with your customer set, will really work in your favor. And innovation becomes extremely exciting at that point. So at this point, I would like to recommend that you head over to the Virtual Handshake tip sheet and look at the innovation tips that we have there and use these on an ongoing basis to stay innovative and to lead your customers and inspire them to keep doing new things and grow your brand. And that's really what makes this whole online selling game so very exciting. So I hope you've enjoyed this kind of unique look at translating what we've known for years and years about successful selling in the offline world and how to replicate those famous lessons, powerful lessons, but do it in this new online way and do it with a new spin that a lot of these new online technologies allow us to do that people, decades and even centuries ago would have only dreamed of. And now we have it here at our fingertips. It's just a matter of us tapping into that and taking advantage of it today. Hope you enjoy it and best of luck in your business.